So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Rishi Sunak paying an effective tax rate of 22%. Why is that? And I'll talk about why that's not very fair in a moment.
Final thought, he earned 4.766 million across 3 years, an overall effective tax rate of 22%. I'm sure I pay more tax than that.
You probably pay at least twice as much as that. And it's not because he's done anything very clever or because he's avoiding tax. It's because in this country, we tax employment income at up to 47%, but capital gains on investments at only 20%. That's why his effective rate is so low. Whether that is a fair result, whether the law should be like that, is a very, very good question. And weirdly, Mr. Sunak, who benefits from that low rate, is also the man who has the power to change it.
He also got rid of the capital gains tax, or cut it temporarily, and he also benefited from that cut in capital gains tax as well, and the pauses in it. We need to ask the question of, should a person who is that rich really have the keys to the treasury, given that he makes money off the way the capital gains tax system is, because he makes money through shares and investments. Whereas if you actually work for a living, you work hard, your money doesn't make money, you make money, or you make someone else money, and you're paid as a result of that. Should you be paying more as a percentage of tax than the government is? Or than the Prime Minister is, or the then Chancellor? That's the real question. And there should be a broader conversation, I think. Why is it that capital gains tax is significantly lower than income tax? On capital gains, you don't pay anything like national insurance. Is it really a fair system to have it so people who just have their money tied up in investments, trust fund babies and things like that, should they really pay less effective tax than someone who generally works for a living? If you look at Kay Burley, someone who works in the media, this gentleman here who's a tax expert, anyone who works doing manual labor, a bricklayer, a plumber, a doctor, those sorts of people. Should Rishi Sunak, whose money makes money, should they be paying a less effective tax rate than people who generally work for a living? Genuinely, the system shouldn't be built like this, where people just, because of their investments, can pay less tax than the people who genuinely work hard. It doesn't make sense. And you can argue he's made smart investments here, but there have been question marks over some of the investments him and his wife have been involved in, considering that they have some kind of, they do have a bit more knowledge than we do on certain things, like when it came to the vaccine purchases, for example, things like that. I'm not saying they're committing insider trading, I wouldn't accuse them of that, but I think they do have a bit more knowledge than we do on certain issues, amongst other things. So I think, is that really a fair system? I'm not sure. And that's the money he paid in the UK. His tax affairs, what about the money he makes in America, given that he had a green card? I think he would have been taxed by the Americans as well. How much was he paying over there? That'd be kind of the bigger question. So there are lots of question marks over that. He also was in control when the government didn't go after a lot of the COVID fraud, or a lot of the companies that were, took out a lot of money for COVID relief, but then sacked a load of employees or went bankrupt shortly after. So they took a load of money from the government and then said, oh yeah, we're bankrupt, we out. A lot of that was investigated. There were allegations his wife was involved in some of that. Some of her companies went bankrupt during the pandemic, and they also took COVID relief funds. Would the Chancellor go after potentially his wife in that regard? It's very, very suspicious, some of the things that happened. Would the Prime Minister go after his wife in that regard as well, given the allegations? I'm not too sure. So it goes to show you that, when you control the kingdom and you're very rich, there's a lot of dodgy things you can do, both by, your actual actions or your actual inactions. Because, this country is fundamentally broken. And when you've got a multimillionaire who's only paying an effective rate of 22% in tax, it's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.